It was very nice to meet you. Your daughter was so lovely. I can't compete with this type of behavior. She's beautiful. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to our 2024 Ridgecrest Mayoral Candidate Forum. I'm Scott O'Neill, Executive Director of the Indian Wells Valley Economic Development Corporation. This is the second of two public service candidate forums being presented by the Ridgecrest Chamber of Commerce, the Ridgecrest Area Association of Realtors, and the Indian Wells Valley Economic Development Corporation. And we want to thank the City of Ridgecrest for making this venue available for this important forum. As we begin, I invite you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand, face the flag, cover your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In addition to myself moderating this evening's event, I would like to introduce Sarah Rizzadini. She's the president of the Ridgecrest Area Association of Realtors, and Chris Hill, Ridgecrest Chamber of Commerce board member. At this time, I also want to welcome our mayoral candidates, Mayor Bruin, Eric Bruin, and Travis Endicott. I welcome our community here and those viewing online, and want to give a special thanks to those who have submitted questions for consideration. The questions may or may not be the same for the two forums that we're having tonight. We'd like to start by reviewing the rules for this event, which are being streamlined to the live public. It is also being recorded so it can be later viewed on YouTube via the Ridgecrest YouTube channel. Our goal in sponsoring this forum is to give you a chance to share with the public some information about yourself, your motivations, and your views. It is also to give us, as representatives of our community, a chance to ask you some important questions. In preparation, we have sought such questions from our community. The questions that we ask are created from these submissions. Each of you will be given a chance to respond to each question asked. Initially, each candidate will be given 2 minutes for an opening statement. Here we hope you will tell us about yourself, your qualifications, your motivations for running, and if elected, any ideas you'll bring to the post. After these introductions, we will move to the question and answer session. The questions being addressed will be posted on the screen for you and for the public's reference. Each candidate will be given a dedicated time to respond to each question asked. The amount of time allotted will be announced before each question. To be fair, each candidate will have an opportunity to be the first in responding to a question. We anticipate asking 5 questions. We expect each of you to be cordial, respectful, and well-mannered in your responses. If you choose to target the particular candidate, after you complete your response, we will give that candidate 30 seconds to rebut. So please keep this in mind. Following the questions, each candidate will be given 2 minutes to share any final thoughts or reasons why you would like the public to vote for them. The timer will be on the wall, will be running for your reference. It will also sound an alarm when your time is up. So please, when you hear the alarm, quickly conclude your response. So I'd like to introduce the candidates and we'll get started with our questions.
Yes, Travis Endicott, if you'd like to go ahead and start with your introduction.
Hi, I'm Travis Endicott, running for mayor. I'll wait. Okay. So I just want to take the time to say thank you to the IWV EDC, the Ridgecrest Area Association of Realtors, and the Chamber of Commerce for putting this on. Greatly appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you all. I'm just a small town kid from middle cornfield of Indiana. I grew up learning hard work. My dad instilled in me that there are 2 things that I need to be. I need to be humble and I need to be kind. I try to embody that through everything that I do. Hopefully, if you've had an interaction with me, you understand that I try to live that motto. I am a veteran. When I was 17 years old, I met the love of my life. And at 19, we got married. I joined the Navy so I could see the world. I went to Virginia and I came to China Lake. I fell in love with China Lake. I wanted this to be home. After I got out of the military, me and my family, we worked like hell to try and get back here. And we finally had the opportunity to get back here. But as a veteran, I've lived a life committed to service, serving other people other than myself. And I understand from my time in the military that the sum is greater than the parts. Getting elected in this position, I'm just a cog in the wheel to assist. I'm here to help. My focus is on ensuring veteran healthcare access. I feel like our vets need more in this area. I know it's been said already tonight, but government transparency, the public needs a better venue or a better opportunity to engage with the council. And I want to get the youth engaged. I am a former college professor. I taught politics. I taught public policy. I understand the academic side, but I know that I'm lacking the professional experience. I hope that you give me the trust to take this position. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Bruin, 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Well, thank you and good evening. My thanks to the Chamber EDC Association for their hard work in putting this forum together. Oh.
Sorry. How do I
Cut me off already. And that's it.
That's over?
It's over.
It's over.
Good evening. My thanks again to everyone who's here for putting this together. My name's Eric Bruin. I'm proud to have been the mayor for Ridgecrest for the last 4 years. I'm here to seek a third term. I'm originally from Los Angeles, came to Ridgecrest, made it my home for the last 20 years. My wife Sharon and I raised our 4 children, Garrett, Grant, Gavin, and Grace here, and I love this town. I could rattle on my backstory, tell you I was an Eagle Scout, the CEO of Desert Valleys, and a Star Wars fanatic, but I'm gonna move past that and talk about the city. Because one thing's happening right now, and let's start with momentum. Momentum is with Ridgecrest. We have nearly $4 billion of new construction on our base that's either completed or nearing completion. We've invested nearly $10 million in roads and parks projects over the past 2 years. We have new construction projects continuing to go forward across this community. We have momentum. Our fire service is secured for the next several years. Our police department is funded and staffed. Our parks department is growing grass and building parks. Roads are being repaired and new roads are being paved. Community involvement is at an all-time high in this community. All of this is a result of citizen support of Measure V and Measure P. I proudly support our police department and the renewal of Measure V. I challenge and refute any effort to defund our police department. Remember that momentum is fleeting and can be lost as quickly as it can be gained, and it's in our hands to continue or lose this momentum. We have done a lot, and the common thread I hear amongst citizens is we have seen more done in the last 2 years than we had seen in the 10 before. And everyone who comes up here and says that we need a change and there's something wrong with our system, our council has been working our backsides off for this community for one reason. We love it. Every single one of us that's up here loves this community. And it's my pleasure to be up here once again to speak with you and tell you about the future for Ridgecrest. Thank you.
Want to start with the first question?
Okay, first question. This is a question received directly from our community. The dial-a-ride services provided by the City of Ridgecrest is a wonderful and essential service, but unfortunately is not meeting the needs of our community due to its limitations. Are you aware of these limitations, and how would you address the needs? You will each have 3 minutes to respond, and Mr. Endicott, will start with you.
Can you repeat it again?
Yeah, and it's also on the board as well, but the dial-a-ride services provided by the city, yeah.
Yeah, that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I am not aware of these limitations. I know what it is, but I assume it's a lack of access. Yeah, this was pretty much my absolute nightmare, not having, I had prepped for a lot. That was not one of them that I prepped for. Yeah, so I'm not aware of the limitations, and thus I'm not able to address the needs. So I'm sorry for the community on that one.
Thank you. Mayor Bruin, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Okay. So let's start with the basics. The first thing is, let's just remember we're in the middle of nowhere, guys. Ridgecrest is a beautiful community, and one of the things that we love about Ridgecrest is our isolation, is our community. The distance that we have between really big urban centers is one of the things that makes us love this town, seeing the sunsets and seeing the mountains and things like that. But what it does, unfortunately, is it means that transit for us is a challenge. It's a challenge for us getting to the doctors. It's a challenge for us getting to the airport. It's a challenge for every citizen in this community. Transit right now has a limited budget. It's always going to have a limited budget because there is a limited amount of travelers. And one of the things that's interesting is I've had an interaction with at least a couple of different citizens where they didn't even realize that we had the dial ride system in place. And that's really interesting because we've been doing everything in our power to communicate that's available. And I understand the limitations are still going to be there. We're not going to be able to get everybody to everywhere. It's simply not going to be part of what the city is capable of doing. That's especially important when you understand our revenue, you understand our budgets, and you understand our financial position. There's absolutely no way we could manage a mass transit type of system. So that's never going to be here. I understand people would love that we have a bus running every 15 minutes and it's always there, but the dial-a-ride system is the most effective way. It also is the most effective way for us to get reimbursed, because what it does is allows us to track and see where we're traveling and how far we're traveling and how many passengers. So how would I address the needs? Unfortunately, I think our transit system is about where it's going to be. Truthfully, there's been many people that have advocated for the elimination of transit altogether. I don't believe in that, and I think it's a very important program. It also helps to feed many of our road improvements and our funding for road projects is by having a transit system. A lot of people may not know that that's a funding component to getting gas tax money or state money for tax for roads. But I think the biggest thing that we have to look at when we talk about all of these things is understanding that Ridgecrest is a small bubble. And as a community, we're not always going to have every resource available to us. That's one of the reasons why our personal investment as citizens, especially through the sales tax mechanism, is really important for protecting Ridgecrest and for managing Ridgecrest revenue needs and managing Ridgecrest expense needs. Because we can't be everything to everybody. People want us to be, but we're simply not going to be. And that's especially true when you factor in what the state does and all those types of things. So my answer would be, am I aware of the limitations? Yes, I am. How would you address the limitations? I don't know that there's a real good solution for expanding into a route-based, every 15 minutes type of system. You have the electric bus problem. You have the state mandates for carbon emissions. You've got a lot of other technical problems that come into play in running a system like that I just don't think is probably within the limitations of our community.
Thank you.
How do I reset this?
Next question. Developers have indicated that building in Ridgecrest is more costly than neighboring areas such as Tehachapi. What are your thoughts on making Ridgecrest more attractive for future development? You'll each have 3 minutes, and we'll start with Mayor Bruin.
Okay, great question. I don't know that I've ever had a developer say more costly than Tehachapi, but I could understand it simply in the transit costs and the additional costs to get things here.
Permitting fees.
Huh?
The permitting fees.
They're speaking specifically permitting. Okay, thank you. I will be very clear. I think that anything for us, our community has to have a cost. I've said that before, I'll say it again. One of the things that we have a function is our community is not having a ton of other revenue sources beyond ourselves. So as we grow as a community, it's important to realize we just had our 50th anniversary, and the city was established in 1963. And then it had its huge surge of population between 1974 and 1986 when the base moved off base and into the community. Well, that surge of housing started the growth for this community. But really, if you think about it as a community, we're still very much a toddler in terms of our finances. We don't get funding from the government for PILT. We still have property tax deals that we had to make for fire service 20 years ago that we have to resolve. We have a bunch of other issues that we're going to consistently have these revenue challenges. So how do I look at how I'm going to make it more attractive for future development? I'm not going to do it through permitting costs. I'm not going to lower fees. I'm not going to try and do it that way. I'm going to try and raise the quality of life for the community as a whole. And that's things like healthcare, that's things like infrastructure, that's public safety. It's all the things that make somebody want to own a home and be a part of the community. Now, Tehachapi is a beautiful community. It's got multiple seasons, it's off highway. I can see a lot of the reasons why people want to be there. It's also an hour from Bakersfield versus 2. But we have an employment opportunity here comparatively that Tehachapi is more of a service industry, right? More of a travel town. Each town's going to be a little bit different. It's a suburb of Bakersfield. We're not a suburb of anybody. We're certainly not a suburb of Los Angeles or of Bakersfield. So you have to look at all the dynamics in that relationship. So my first focus, if you're asking me how am I going to make more attractive for future development, is I want to make a community where people want to live. Very simple. I want people to want to have nice parks. I want people to want to feel safe in their homes. I want people to see and drive on good roads. I want people to understand that there's community events and opportunities to interact with your neighbor. I want people to be involved and get a part of that special sauce as Ridgecrest, where we volunteer and we get involved in things and we do lots of interactions. That's where Ridgecrest is. It's how we interact with each other. And we can create that in quality of life. We can create that with our parks. We can create that with our police. We can create that with our economics. We've been doing that, which is the best part. Raising the quality of life for everyone is critically important. So what I would do is right now I'd say, we have invested in making sure that quality of life is great for this community, and we're going to continue to make sure that development, and when people are looking for places to live, Ridgecrest is at the top of the list, not just because it's the cheapest place, but rather the best place to live.
Thank you. Mr. Endicott?
Okay.
Good? Okay. All right, so now I get the joy of going after the mayor after he answered with what I was writing down at the time, so it looks like I'm stealing off you. But I agree, right? The major component of how we can attract people, businesses, is by the people, right? Robert Putnam discussed in the 80s on how civic engagement had been dropping, right? We started seeing less individuals going to bowling alleys and joining those teams and having those engagements with your fellow man on the street. And I have to congratulate the city council and the mayor, because some of the civic engagement stuff is starting really to take hold. You know, you guys are doing a great job with trying to bring the community back together, right? And to me, right, if I'm a businessman coming in, that's what I'm looking for, right? I want people who want to stay there, right? It's not a transient operation at that point, right? Better people equals happier people equals individuals who are willing to give it their all at their job, right? Currently, I work on the base. Retention is a problem, right? The news today about the hospital, that's fantastic. We'll need to find an avenue 12 months plus 1 day and what we're going to do with that, right? But that's a concern for individuals in this town. Should I stay here? Should I have a family here if the hospital is not going to provide the services available? But you know, I don't have the knowledge on permitting fees, I think is what is the big hindrance, or what the council can do for that. But what I know that I can do is try to bring the community together, try to get more engagement, whether that's in these chambers or out on the streets. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Okay, the third question is on water. Water is a critical and controversial issue in our community, so please summarize the problem as you see it. And then, do you agree with the groundwater sustainability plan as written, or don't you? And please be specific why. How do you intend to create more understanding about the water issue in the community and build unity in the way forward and harmony between the factions? You'll each have 5 minutes, and we'll start with Mr. Endicott.
All right. So the way that the problem that I see with our water is we have two different groups who are talking at each other instead of talking with each other. And I think that leads to, or they might not even be talking to each other. They might be talking through mediators or legal experts. To me, that's the problem, right? We can't agree on what the facts are. We have one group that has run a study, and they say that our current water level is at X percent. Another group has run a study, and they say that our water level is at this percent. And if we can't even come to the table to agree, or even come to the table just to talk, right? We're not going to go forward in any way, shape, or form. So how do I intend to create more understanding, unity in the way forward, and harmony between the factions? Discourse, right? We may not have to agree with each other, right? But we shouldn't have them not talking with each other at all. Some of the conversation that was had at the council member forum, involve the public more. We need to, all of you have a voice. I've been coming to council meetings, right? It is rather sparse, the engagement that comes to these meetings. If we had more of a voice to come and to talk and to engage, that's what moves the city forward. But again, I can't solve a problem when there are two groups that are working against each other. And to me, that's the major problem, right? And we're gonna solve any of that if both groups continue not to talk or it's all through litigation.
Mr. Bruin, 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir. So I always, when we bring up the water issue, I always start with one sentence to remind everybody. We live in a desert. Just a reminder. We live in a desert. Water was always going to be an issue. It's been an issue for 30 years. We've taken reports and thrown them at each other. We've taken studies and thrown them at each other. And it was only SGMA that was passed in 2014 that actually changed the dynamic around water. It changed the dynamic that now the state was going to force our hand. So let's be real clear about that from a perspective. The state first passed a law and said you must address your overdraft status in order to maintain your sustainability as a community. That's where Groundwater Sustainability Plan, GSP, came from. I know we use a lot of acronyms up here, but somehow we don't explain the words. That is the GSP. The GSP and SGMA, the State Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, okay, that was 2014, requires that communities establish their process to establish the GSP. We as a community did the best thing we could. We took control of our situation. If we didn't take control of our situation, the state would have. Some have even suggested the state should at this point. I certainly disagree with that statement. I think we've been doing a spectacular job of actually following through with what the state expected. And we've gone through 8 years of analysis, 8 years of conversation, 8 years of fundamental information. Mr. Blade said earlier, there's a ton of information out there for people to see and read and to get educated on the process. And let's take another special part of this desert aspect. So we live in a desert, but our problem started when we allowed agriculture. Kern County allowed it. I'm not going to say the city of Ridgecrest permitted, it's all out in the county. And we sold a lot of land and we allowed agriculture into the community. And that agriculture drinks 3 times as much water as the entire city of Ridgecrest, the water district, and the base combined annually. 3 times. Agriculture is our water problem. Nobody wants to say it, and I can't for the life of me understand why the water district is so ingrained with the agriculture faction or agricultural means. But the simple fact is that agriculture is not a solution for our community. We have to find a solution to eliminate the agriculture. I am hopeful that we can find a good settlement that resolves for everybody. We've been doing that for years, and we will continue to do that. We have many different closed meeting sessions that this conversation comes up. I remember 4 years ago, I didn't understand this issue nearly as much as I do today. But there is a couple important facts that we don't talk about with water. And let's just point out one. All 4 levels of government are agreed on the GSP and the imported water project. All 4. Not a single level of government is in dispute that the GSP is a good plan and that can provide a solution to this community. The feds, state, county, and local. We always have people say we don't want to hurt the Navy, we don't want to hurt these people. Well, the Navy has gotten on board with this. The federal government has gotten on board with this. The county of Kern is on board with this. The state of California is on board with it. We have one of the only approved GSP plans in the state. But yet we're back here dealing with what I would call undermining, controversy, challenge, whatever word you want to use. You know, the fact is that people don't like that there was a fee. People don't like that there is a groundwater replenishment fee. And they didn't like the way it was done in 2019. But the fact is that those funds have allowed us to move the GSP so much further that we stand now at the point where we're very close to the imported water project. Now, there's been a lot of fake news arguments, and earlier today somebody threw out the $3,000 number. That's all been made up. There's no single report that has that number anywhere. Okay, it's just math that people took from a report. And even those reports that have been provided, one of the interesting things, even today they said that report has yet to release its model. So the comparative model that you'd use between the two reports. So what we do is we have lawyers. We have press firms and we have lawyers playing bounce around the community in terms of its opinion. One day we're going to say this, there's 14,000. One day we're going to say there's this, 7,000. One day we're going to say there's a not good model. One day we're going to say it's a bad model. And if you look, they all are coming from press firms and attorneys. We are litigating ourselves into a problem we don't need to have. Is it going to be more expensive? Yes, it will. We did that when we brought agriculture in and we sucked the amount of water we sucked out of us. Is it going to be funded or supported by the government in order to make it successful? Yes, it will. Because if it doesn't, then you're right. Anybody who wants to say and look at me and say, well, this isn't going to happen if there's not government support, you are absolutely correct. But that government support is not going to suddenly turn into recycled water or something else. It's an imported water pipe.
Next question. What is your position on Measure AA and Measure V, and why? Mayor Bruin, we'll start with you again.
No problem. I don't know if anybody's going to have a shock at my position. So let's start with Measure V. Obviously, I'm a wild advocate for Measure V, and in my personal life, I proudly spend my time working for it. Proudly. Because I believe in this community, and I believe in those officers back there. I believe in what we've been doing, and more importantly, Measure V is 28% of our budget. I want everybody in this room to go ahead and imagine what their paycheck is and then subtract 28% of it and ask yourself what you would do, okay? We would have no choice but to make the cuts. We made a commitment to this community and they voted and approved Measure P for the pool. The pool will go forward. And if that means that we have to declare a financial crisis or we have to go into some other really ugly things, including layoffs and things like that, because the community doesn't support Measure V, we may have to do those things. I don't want to. I want nothing to defund our police. That's a simple statement. I believe in those gentlemen. I believe in those ladies. They have been working tirelessly to ensure our public safety. And I know that every single night when I lay my head down on my pillow, I know my kids are safe, I know my property is safe, and I know they are out there defending me. So thank you guys. But let me be very clear. Measure V is not just about police. It's also about the roads and the infrastructure. Hey, did everyone love Carmageddon? Nope. I even joked that I kept driving myself down the wrong road every other day. But the fact is that we did get work done, and we're continuing to get more work done in this community. There has been more road work, and you know how I know that? Because people are complaining about it. If there wasn't road work going on, there wouldn't be nearly as many complaints about it. That's a fact. And we've been doing everything right with Measure V for over a decade. From L to V to today, we have met the commitment of the citizens, and I pray and hope that they will continue that by renewing Measure V. So I'm going to take my last minute to say AAA. Real simple at AAA. Anybody who understands gambling, I will ask you, if you had a 6 times return on your bet, what would you do? That's what this is. We need to understand that the Navy has worked very hard to ensure that our schools are at the top of the list and ready to receive funding. And that means that we now need to make the commitment as citizens. Hey, I don't want any more on my property taxes than anybody else in this room does. But I am absolutely, even though every single one of my children is homeschooled, absolutely 1,000% committed to voting for AAA, for AA, and will continue to advocate for AA because there is no better return. Anybody who has a family out there, anybody who has a kid, anybody who sends somebody to school, I want to ask you, if you walked into the store and your son was demanding the Buzz Lightyear $50 toy or $60 toy, and you saw it on the clearance aisle for $10, you tell me you walk away. That's what these schools are. We put in 10, they put in 60. It's 20 million for 120 million.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Endicott, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I think we've all learned that I'm not as wordy as the mayor, but I will work on it. So with my position on AA, as the mayor said, it makes logical sense, right? You have to spend some to get some. In order to have the federal government help to get better school equipment, building, right? I assume we're going to build more with AA. I've talked with members of the school board on all the things that can come with it, right? And seeing as one of my tenets is youth engagement and trying to build a better life for my kids, for your kids, that is my goal. I want to see our students shouldn't have to worry or think about the condition of the school that they're in while they're trying to learn. Anything that can distract them from actually attaining an education is problematic in my mind. And so I think that supporting Measure AA is a smart choice. I understand that individuals might not want an added bill on their property tax, but I think it was 6 cents per $100 is what was going to be given on Measure AA. It's a small price to pay to know that our children are going to be taken care of. Now for Measure V. This is not a new tax. This is a continuation of what we've already been paying. And I think that the council and the individuals on Facebook who are supporting Measure V have continued to say that, and they've continued to make that known. If you're not happy with the roads, road work, the infrastructure, and everything else that has been going on, right? We probably don't like Carmageddon, right? We probably don't like having to take detours, but we like the end product. We like that our cars aren't getting damaged by potholes and riding into ditches or anything like that, right? We like those kind of things. And in order to do that, some of these measures have to happen. Now, if I happen to win this election and Measure V, the public thinks that Measure V shouldn't pass, then we'll work with it, right? We'll try and figure out. I don't know if it's necessarily an immediate cut to the police department, right? But we will have to tighten the belt. We will have to come to terms with everything that we had been expecting and we had been living with. We'll see a drastic cut to it. And so in that way, I know I have 7 seconds, but I know I'm not really happy about the lack of sunset clause, and I think that that's a large reason why individuals might have a problem with the current structure of Measure V.
Thank you. Okay, the fifth question. What is the number one challenge facing the city, and how will you work with the city council and staff to resolve the issue? So we'll start off with you, Mr. Endicott, and we'll give you 3 minutes.
The number one challenge facing the city has to be the water issue. Part and parcel, without water, I get that we live in a desert, but without that, I mean, we can't have the new developments. We can't have the quality of life that we want. That, to me, is the number one challenge facing the city. And again, what I want to focus on is I talk to people. I've enjoyed going door to door, meeting our community members. Water continues to be one of the issues that is constantly talked about as I'm knocking on doors. And I've just want to say I've really enjoyed this opportunity to go and knock on doors and get to meet so many of you. Even the ones that haven't been overly happy that I'm knocking on their door and angering their dogs. But water will continue to be our biggest issue. And without that, we have nothing. I do want to talk about, I know it's the number one challenge, right? But to me, the hospital and the access to care, not only for veterans, but for everyone else, that to me is a huge issue. So it's 1B, right? Because as I said earlier, we have a 12-month block where the hospital is going to be funded. Now the real work, I know work has already been done, right? But now we all get to get involved, right? Because we have to start thinking about what happens on day 366. where's the money going to come from? How do we continue to maintain services here in order to, A, retain people and maintain our quality of life? And more importantly, I went to the veteran stand down on Friday and got to talk to a lot of individuals. One of the things I talked with the VA about was trying to get satellite clinics here in town for veterans so that you don't have to rely on using your cell phone in order to have video conference a physician. You can go there, you can teleconference with someone there. That way we can provide better services to veterans here. Just a way that we can overcome a potential physician shortage or lack of individuals wanting to come here. So I'll cede my time.
Mayor Bruin, 3 minutes.
Thank you. So in 2022, we sat on the same dais and a very similar question. They said, and it went water, 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 and then it got to me, and I said the state of California. It's going to be my same answer today. The biggest challenge facing the city of Ridgecrest is the state of California. We are surrounded by it. And every single problem that we've talked about here today has some relevance to the state of California. SB 1383, our trash situation, created by the state of California. Our water issue, 2014, Sigma, created by the state of California. The challenges that we have with policing and the amount of reporting and the things that we have to do, Prop 47, created by the state of California. One of the biggest challenges we have is navigating what the urban communities are doing to the rural communities of California. Let's be clear. We have a lot of challenges inside of our community, but all of these challenges have some layer of starting at the legislative side for the state. Now, we have good legislators, and we've had good legislators for many years, but the fact is that we are a red community living in a great big old blue ocean. Okay? And the things that we want and we value are maybe different than some other communities. And so therefore we have to deal with those legislative issues. But we have to deal with them smartly. And that's a perfect example of what happened with trash. So everyone wants to have the challenge with trash. And I respect everyone who's gone through it or has a complaint about it. But the simple fact is there's never been anything more than a 6, 8, 10 problem. You had 6 pickups before, they made it 10, we cut it down by 2 in order to reduce your bill to 8. That's all we did. But at the same time, we also took Cal Recycle, another state issue, that had been on our backside for over 10 years and threatening fees and fines, because for 10 years, our community could not raise our recycling diversion above 7%. Since we put in the trash, we're over 35%. We took problems and we found solutions. Do I like the biweekly trash service? Would I rather be back to my weekly? I absolutely would. But do I want to go back and reopen a contract with an agency like Waste Management right now, 4 years after an inflationary cycle? No, I don't. I want to let this contract run its course, and then I want to open it up to the citizens and see if you guys are willing to pay $30 or $40 more a period. That's what the county is going to be facing here real soon. So the number one challenge this community continues to face is what happens from the state down to us. And we are doing everything in our power to make it as easy and as comfortable for our community. Nobody wants a higher water bill. Nobody wants a higher trash bill. Nobody wants a higher gas bill. Nobody wants a higher power bill. But I don't see anybody screaming at SCE, but I know I got a $600 power bill this summer. Anybody else get one of those? Okay? But I don't see us screaming at SCE. Why? Because they're protected by the state. But you scream at the city for the things that the state does. Our number one challenge will be continue to work every single problem for the benefit of our citizens.
Okay, we're ready for closing comments. So we'll start off with you, Mayor Bruin. 2
Okay,
minutes.
well, is it 1 minute or 2 minutes? Just to make sure.
Hold on a second.
Okay. It's 3? 2, okay. And go. Okay. Well, thank you everyone first for coming. This is a bigger crowd than we normally get. First and third Wednesdays, 6 p.m., always welcome. We'd love to hear you. We'd love to hear from you. My phone number is out on the web. My email's out on the web. I'm on Facebook. Anybody who's ever reached out to me typically gets communication. Yes, I will admit that there are some that at this stage, I know communication just isn't working. But thank you for the spirited discussion this evening. I truly believe that Ridgecrest's best days are ahead of us. We have been working very hard. It's been a pleasure to work with Councilman Blades and Councilman Rajaratnam, and I support both of them in their reelection, and I look forward to continuing to work with them. We have to continue to focus on pushing ourselves forward. We have done that, and without holding ourselves back for the first time. We need to continue to invest in ourselves and in our community. We need to ensure that public safety is fully funded and that Public Works has the resource to continue the road repairs. Measure V is that important to this community. We need to continue to work on solutions and put aside social media and fear and doubt and mistrust and conspiracy theories and little boys that cry wolf. We need to put them all aside. Every aspect of the city of Ridgecrest, from communication to collaboration, is entirely committed to your quality of life. We got up here and we're focused on making your life better. We've been doing that. And I know we've been doing that because you guys are telling us that we're doing that. You come and tell us how much we've been doing. I want to see that continue to happen. One of my favorite quotes comes from Francis Willard. The world is wide, and I will not waste my life in friction when it could be turned into momentum. Our opportunities are wide, and we have momentum. Let us not squander it by wasting it on friction. I believe in Ridgecrest and I believe in its future. I thank you again for your time tonight. I thank our host for this evening. I thank Travis for being such a great gentleman throughout this entire process and his lovely family. And thank you for a wonderful evening.
Travis, 2 minutes.
All right, so I'm aware that I'm probably going to get a lot of votes from people that just absolutely despise him. But I want you to vote for me for a lot more reasons than that. One of the things that I continue to teach my students was that there is a lot more that unites us than what divides us. And what we need to do is we need to work on finding those things that unite us to work together. We are a community, and each one of us is just as important as any others. Just because I'm sitting up here or running for this position, that does not make me any better than you. And I welcome input and thought, and I'm sure the mayor and the council do as well. But tonight we've heard about the challenges and opportunities that face Ridgecrest. But this election isn't about problems, it's about solutions. It's about who you trust to lead our city. As a veteran, former professor, and a member of the community, I have dedicated my life to service. And that same commitment drives me to run for mayor. I'm here to help create more opportunities for our youth. I am here to help improve health access to veterans. I am here to help ensure transparency in our local government. And I am here to help to protect our civil liberties in this digital age. But above all, I believe in the citizens of this community and our ability to work together to create a better future. I'm not here to impose my views, but to listen, to act, and be a voice for all of Ridgecrest. If you want leadership that brings people together and fights for our shared future, I ask for your vote. Together, we can make Ridgecrest stronger for everyone. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for having this, and thank you, everybody, for showing up. This has been fantastic.
Thank you, candidates. Thank you to all who joined us here and who viewed the forums online. We hope it was informative and helpful in determining how you will decide. Thank you, Sarah and Scott, for co-moderating this event with me. Thanks to our hosts, the Ridgecrest Chamber of Commerce, Ridgecrest Area Association of Realtors, and the Indian Wells Valley Economic Development Corporation. And a final thanks to the City of Ridgecrest for accommodating this forum by allowing us to use the council chambers and their audiovisual system. This concludes our candidate forums for 2024. Please remember to vote on Tuesday, November 5th. Take care, stay safe, and good night.
Good night.